All right, so we've got Snailspeed's plug and play race max ECU set up here. Just going to go through and show some of the stuff that I did for him. Almost done. I've got a few minutes worth of work left on an LED that I don't have yet. But anyway, this is a max ECU race using the Boost by Smith Gen 2 Busa ECU adapter box. He's going to unplug his stock ECU, plug this guy in. Max ECU will go in the tail section. He's got 8 exhaust gas temp sensor inputs there. I think 4 of them he's going to use, and then use the other ones for spare temperature inputs. Knock sensors are wired, but not going to be used at this time. You may look at that later on. There are 6 12-volt outputs not currently being used, but those are all controllable by the max ECU. In this case, we actually wired a Holley dumb coil driver for the coil driver on it. LSU 4.2 Bosch O2 sensor. That guy's wired in. And then, so I've got a relay set up here with a fuse built into it. Just hook the negative and red lead over to your 12-volt battery on the bike. Moving on, we've got this ginormous Aem Cd7. Really cool looking screen display. It gets all of the data from the max ECU through 2 wires through the CAN input there. And then I wired in an adapter to be able to plug into the factory gauge cluster connector to get power ground, and then to also feed 12 volt to the speed signal sensor on the bike, because that normally is done by the stock gauge cluster. Then if we keep moving on, look at all these other harnesses that I built. This is the shift cut and speed input to the max ECU. So there's 2 pins that he will insert into pins 3 and 5 on the ECU connector. Those are empty right now. This inline adapter is going to plug into the speed sensor. That's going to get wheel speed into the max for getting speed out to the dash, and then as well as being able to do speed-based stuff, so boost control, for example. Then these 2 leads here are going to plug into the factory horn connection. And I've got a 2-pin solenoid here with a mating connector for an air solenoid to do air shift. Moving up a little bit, this harness is going to plug into the stock map sensor connector. You don't need that on the max race ECU because it has a built-in map sensor that you just run a vacuum line to. So anyway, this is a 50 psi sensor that will get mounted in the dome of the wastegate, and that will just plug right into the factory harness. He's got an oil temp sensor here that he's going to run into the stock intake air temperature port on the bike. We've got some other stuff for his temperatures that we don't need that one anymore. And then these 2 guys are going to plug into near the fuel rail where you've got your secondary servo motor and then secondary throttle angle sensor. Those aren't being used anymore, so this will plug in. And then once he does that, he's going to get fuel pressure, coolant pressure, oil pressure. He's got an intake air temp. This is a GM intake air temperature sensor here. And then I don't have a sensor here, but he has it on the bike already. This is a GM water temp sensor connector. This is going to be for his intercooler water temperature. So we've got all kinds of stuff wired into this bad boy with lots of outputs left. The only thing I don't think I didn't cover is this connector here are 5-volt signals coming out of the unused coil connectors or coil connections for coils 5 through 8, only 4-cylinder bike, so you don't need those. We're going to use those to run a tricolor LED. So the LED will be red, green, or blue depending upon which boost mode he's in. And he's got the ability to do 3 different boost tables or even different modes, so like gear-based, time-based, or speed-based boost control. And he'll select those modes by going in, tapping on the up mode button on the right hand control. So a short tap gets you into one boost mode, a long hold gets you into another one, and then another tap will go back to, the original setting. So you can do 3 different modes by using the digital input latching setup. Pretty cool stuff.